Saint Brigid is a Christian saint and also a pagan goddess. Her pagan identity is associated with a fire cult. It is believed that much of her Christian identity is borrowed from her pagan identity, and many of the beliefs and traditions that are associated with her originated from pagan beliefs and traditions from ancient times. She is often associated with fire and blacksmiths, fertility, cattle, and women. She is well known for her triplicate nature as a pagan goddess. She is a learned woman, a woman of healing, and a woman of smithwork. On her belt she wore 3 crosses, which further emphasized her triplicate nature. She is believed to have lived in Kildare in the 5th and 6th centuries. The feast of St. Brigid is on February 1st, but the celebrations begin at sunset on the eve of her feast. This is a common practice in Ireland because of the liminality and magic associated with the transition time between sunset and sunrise. Her feast is celebrated on February 1st because it is said that St. Brigid wandered the countryside with a white cow on the night of the 31st. To celebrate the feast, people leave bread on their doorstep for Brigid and put a bed of rushes by the fire for her to sleep and rest. The Feast of St. Brigid is important in the agricultural year because it is associated with the beginning of spring. This connects back to Brigid's association with fertility. There are stories that Brigid places her foot in the water on February 1st so that it starts to warm up for spring.
The most iconic and well-known Irish custom linked with the St. Brigid festival is the making of the St. Brigid's cross. Irish men and women would make St. Brigid's crosses on the eve before St. Brigid's festival to be hung up in the entryway of the house. The cross would then be a symbol for protection for the family and to honor the saint herself. Often the crosses were also hung up in the briar and staple too. All one needs to make a cross is twigs, strips of wood, rushes, or reeds of sorts to be weaved into the shape of a cross or diamond. There are, however, some localized cross types depending on the location in Ireland. These crosses are made with the traditional material, but more specialized with the local imagination and skill. For example, some crosses may have 24 or even 30 lozenges, which was most common in the counties of Donegal. Although many different regions of Ireland had specialized crosses, the most common is a type with just 4 legs, generally constructed by small children. The children would work and sometimes use up to 20 rushes to each side, producing a square of overlapping rushes. Moreover, the making of crosses was attended by some ceremony. In the southern half of Ireland, the household would make 1 cross, sprinkle it with holy water, and then hang it above the door with an appropriate prayer. Similarly, in some southern areas, a 2nd cross would be made and hung up in the briar. If one would head up north, much more elaborate rituals with the crosses would be performed, varying upon locality.
The making of St. Brigid's cross on the eve of her feast is like a ceremony. There is a lot of tradition associated with it, and the ritual behind it is closely tied with the locality. Although the ritual is different between different counties, there are several themes and similarities that appear in most counties. There is a strong connection between the rushes and the doorway, their entry into the house. In County Tyrone, there is a ceremonial call and response associated with bringing the rushes into the house. There is a similar door ceremony in County Donegal. The words that are said are usually, "Go on your knees, open your eyes, and let Brigid in." And the response is, "Greeting, greeting to the noble woman." The making of the crosses is also closely associated with the meal. The rushes that are used to make the crosses are usually placed under or on the table during the meal if the cross is made following the meal. Otherwise, the crosses themselves would be placed on the table. The meal varies depending on the area. In County Derry, they eat oat bread that was made in the shape of the cross, and when it has all been eaten, they make the crosses. In County Sligo and Donegal, the meal includes either mashed potatoes or Kilcannon.
The traditional festival of St. Brigid is still living and thriving as a pivotal date in the Irish Catholic calendar today. People still practice all parts of the festival, from making St. Brigid's crosses on the eve of the festival to the main features of going about from house to house carrying a symbol of the saint. The town of Kildare will always be associated with the saint, and the Curragh is known as the goddess's pasture. The story tells of the Curragh being granted to St. Brigid by the King of Leinster in return for reducing the size of his ears. An annual file bride, organized by the Brigidine sisters in Kildare today, precedes the feast day with something for everyone to do. This event lasts 5 days with a pilgrimage and a peace and justice conference as a core component. Another place associated with St. Brigid from ancient times is Faughart. People of all ages and from all walks of life come to Faughart throughout the year to honor and pray to Brigid. In Faughart, there is a festival which celebrates Brigid of Faughart traditions in ways which are relevant to our lives in the 21st century.